Of course, big news over the weekend, or not over the weekend, but Friday came out after we were off the air that Trayce Jackson-Davis is officially returning. Nothing's surprising to me per se, but now Indiana's roster is set. The fans know what they're going to have. We know what they're going to have. The coaches know what they're going to have. And now they have to go in and start working with this group. How much difference does this lineup, or not lineup, but the personnel they have?
Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot. This guy could be player of the year, Big Ten player of the year. I mean, I think I know Andy Cass was throwing around national player of the year. I mean, I think that's a little much. So, that's probably taken a little bit far, but the whole, I think the entire all Big Ten first team is right now in the draft and expected to stay there. Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey, Johnny Davis, EJ Liddell, Kofi Coburn, all 5 of those guys are in the draft, and it doesn't seem like any of them are leaving. Obviously, Murray, Ivey, and Davis are probably going to be lottery picks. Definitely Murray and Ivey for sure. So you're looking at, obviously, he moves up basically as being one of the most impactful players in the league, in the Big Ten. So that's huge. When you have a guy at that level, that puts you in a position to win every night. And obviously he's put them in a lot of good positions throughout his career. I mean, they're a different team the last 3 years, so they don't have him. Basically, I mean, they're a significantly worse team if you take him out of there. He's been their leading scorer each of the last 3 years, probably the biggest, best rebounder each of the last 3 years. Obviously, it's a big deal when you get to keep somebody like that. It certainly raises your ceiling a whole heck of a lot. I mean, I think they had a chance to still be good even if he left, but that would have put a lot of onus on Malik right now, because that would have been, he probably would have been the guy who had been starting the 5, unless you threw Race Thompson in there and forced him to play the 5 and be just really undersized there. I mean, obviously, he's been able to hang there in the past, but it's different taking a couple minutes there to give Trayce a break and opposed to starting there. And so it would have been harder for him to score, at the level that he has been at the 4. So that, it obviously, again, it raises the ceiling. It gives you an all-American caliber player at the 5. It makes you a lot better. Now, obviously, you look at the rest of the roster, and say, okay, well, how much better are they going to be? So it has a chance. Obviously, it comes down to a lot of guys making a leap. It comes down to freshmen being able to contribute immediately, particularly Hood-Schifino and Reno. But they have a crack at it. I mean, I think they're a preseason top 20 team. I think that's where you're going to see them, as somewhere in the top 20. I'd be surprised to see them higher than 15. And I certainly would not expect, you're not going into this hanging, national, title. You're not, it's not to say it's not possible, but yeah, there's not 6 banner expectations here on this group. I mean, that would be above and beyond the expectation, because you still have flaws with this group here. Again, you go back to some of the same issues that we've been talking about for years about Indiana rosters. There are not proven shooters. There are not enough of them. Anyway, I mean, again, the guys that they come back, they don't have anybody who hit 40 last year.
That's my take. This team, he mentioned he mentioned the championship. I don't see them. They can win a Big Ten championship, yes, because I look back at last year, I'm like, wow, that could have gone a lot of different ways. But sure. I've been saying exactly what you're talking about. They still do not have a proven shooter, and that does not change things from last year. They did not have a proven shooter last year, although they have much better personnel in different positions. They still don't. But is this something that maybe gets done by committee this year instead? Is there less pressure on Miller Kopp for some reason, and he has a better year? I can see that happening. There seemed like there was a ton of pressure on him to produce instantly, and I don't know that he handled that pressure well. And maybe there's less pressure on him, more talk of these other guys, especially with the incoming recruiting class, and it spreads out that a little bit. And you get 1 or 2 from Xavier, you get 1 or 2 from Jalen Hood-Schifino. Now all of a sudden that pressure is relieved a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at it this way, like their starting lineup had one creator and two catch and shoot guys. So that's really, I mean, that's really the difference is like you're looking at a situation where both of those guys needed someone else to create space for them. Between Stewart and Cobb, they did not get a lot done on the bounce. So like two of your three guards, and at the end of the day, small forward is a guard. And the way this position is operating in the modern day game, like the 4 is almost a perimeter position, but really what it's kind of shifted down to is the 4 is really what the 3 used to be, and the 3 is really what the 2 used to be, and the 2 is still the same in terms of how it functions across basketball at this point. So the thing is they had two guys they had two guys who were catch and shoot guys, and the only guy who could create anything off the bounce is Xavier Johnson. So as far as pressure coming off, I think one way that happens is almost whoever starts at the 2, if Kopp is the 3. Now, again, there's a good chance that Kopp doesn't win the 3, that the Kopp just comes off the bench. That's certainly a thing that could possibly happen. But if you presume Xavier Johnson is your starting point guard, all of the guys who you would say are up for the starting shooting guard position are guys who at least have a high school pedigree of being able to create off the dribble. That means Jalen Hood-Schifino. That means Trey Galloway. That means Tamar Bates. I would say those are the 3 possibilities, the 3 real possibilities. CJ Gunn. I mean, throw in the wild card there just in case that he could step in as a true freshman and blow everybody's doors off, and he's way farther along than you're expecting to be out of the gate. Like unless somehow it's Anthony Leal, which I mean, again, God love Anthony Leal, and I think he can certainly make a contribution. I don't mean this to be dismissive of Anthony Leal, but right now I would not put the odds very high on the starting 2 and 3 being Anthony Leal and Miller Kopp. So as long as it's not that, it's guys that can create off the bounce. Somebody who can move and potentially guys who can move and shoot. So if guys like that, if you have a Tamar Bates if he turns into what he was at IMG and what he was at Piper High School in Kansas City, if he becomes that guy that he was built to be, then yeah, a guy like that takes pressure off Miller Kopp. If Jalen Hood-Schifino is there right away, is what you want him to be right away, and he's backup point guard, but he's also a 2 playing alongside, and you basically have sort of a 2 point guard scenario there, then you've got 2 guys that can create off the bounce. And so they both create opportunities, and they both obviously can find Kopp in those positions. Miller Kopp's not going to change. You're not there are guys that can, get closer to their ceilings. Like Tamar Bates can be a much different player, I think, as a sophomore than he was as a freshman. Miller Kopp's not going to be a different guy. Okay. Like Miller Kopp is who he is. Now he can create more volume. He can hit at a higher clip. He's going to be a catch and shoot guy. It's just creating more and better opportunities for him to get catch and shoot opportunities and him get into more of a groove. Like his percentage can go up a little bit. He can get a few by way of volume, but those are going to have to be created for him. But there's more guys who can be creators. And I think obviously Johnson is just creating at a higher level anyway than he was at the beginning of last season. If he continues to play at the level that he was at, that he's going to create more shots for Kopp than he was for the bulk of this season. And I think you saw him really do a good job of finding Kopp down the stretch. There were some that Kopp just missed. Which was classic because Johnson started throwing up threes as soon as Kopp would put it up. And when Kopp would miss, you would see Johnson just get openly devastated so that everybody could see it and practically shame Miller Kopp for missing a 3 when Johnson set him up. But the bottom line is he's got guys that are going to be able to create space for him and give him good looks. So I think that changes the game a lot. It has potential for making things a lot easier on him. Just there's going to be a lot of guys who, again, via high school pedigree, by what we saw from them at previous levels, have the ability to be, multi-level scorers, but also guys that can create space with the dribble. And so again, that changes Miller Kopp's situation.
Forrest said this is exactly what I've been saying. A top 3 in the Big Ten in the second weekend of the NCAA. That should be the ceiling of your expectations, and let it go from there. Whatever happens, happens. But yeah, I expect Indiana to be in the top 3 from the Big Ten. I expect them to have a very good shot to make the second weekend. So, but
yeah, I mean, it'll come down to matchups.
Don't talk about championships. Stop thinking about championships. You have to let that stuff come. Just you have to you got to let that come to you and get to that point. But don't set yourself up for failed
not with this team
expectations.
specifically. I mean, like I don't, I think we national media, and then it trickles down to us, end up bagging on Indiana fans a lot for, like, why are you guys so unrealistic? Why do you think this? Why do you think that? And I didn't forget Tamar Bates, Chris Lewis. I did not forget Tamar Bates. Come on now.
I may forget him a little bit. I probably don't talk about him enough. He is a guy that we don't know what to expect. This could be a big year. We don't know what his freshman to sophomore leap is going to be, and he's kind of an X factor. I mean, he could be a guy that comes out and we're like, oh hell, look at this.
No, I mean, and I don't think, like, shoot, I wrote, like, I don't know, 5,000 words on this last year. Don't trust me. I delved fully into the potential of a Tamar Bates leap, and I mean, I have just talked to all his high school coaches. Basically, obviously, he went to Piper. He had 2 coaches at Piper, and then his coach at IMG. The potential for this guy is huge. And I think you saw some flashes last year. He just had a stretch of a slump where he just couldn't put the ball in the bucket. Just nothing went right for him, but you see the physical capability. He can break people down off the dribble. He cares about defense. I mean, I think he got caught up in a couple situations. Like playing at the college level was a little different for him. I mean, he got hit by some screens that he wasn't expecting, but he's a guy that cares about that. He has a lot of length. He has a lot of athleticism. He can absolutely make a leap. I mean, I think he's one of the guys that has the biggest potential to take a biggest step. I expect development from him. I expect him to come in this summer, and I expect that he's already done it this spring. I mean, I'm sure he hasn't been just sitting around waiting for June 1st to get here. I'm sure that he's been looking at this and saying, man, freshman year wasn't what I expected it to be, but I learned some things and I'm going to focus on those things and how to fix them and how to get better, and believe in that. But it's just like, I mean, everywhere you've seen it at his level, I mean, like him, I think he shot a touch under 34% from the field. That's obviously really, really not good for a guard. But that doesn't track with anything he's ever done before, and I know it's high school, it's college, whatever, it's a leap, but he's got a lot of really good potential. And I do think he's one of those guys that if it comes together for him, he can raise the ceiling a whole lot. And like I said, I think he's one of those guys that can create, for Miller Kopp, as a 2, but he can just flat win the 3 job. I think a really good potential backcourt is Xavier Johnson, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and Tamar Bates. Those 3 together are absolutely something that I think could happen and could work. And I think he can be that guy. I don't think there's any question about it. So yeah,
it could be wicked too.
Trust me, if there's anyone who's sleeping on Tamar Bates, it is not me.